Hi there, folks. This is Sean Broderick, and I'm here with another interview with Matthew Hornor. You remember him. We just talked to him. He's the CEO of Maple Gold, and they have this great property up in Quebec, and they had some fascinating news on Thursday. And so Matthew's going to give you the scoop. It'll explain why the stock you're holding went so high. Matthew, could you please tell my subscribers what's going on?
Happy to, and thanks again for taking the time to speak with us. We were in the midst of negotiating the final deal points when we first spoke not too long ago with what I would consider to be the number one partner on the planet for us and our project. That we have always been looking for a strong partner, a big partner.
Yes, I remember that in the interview. Yeah.
This type of project requires that access to balance sheet, a proper company that knows how to build mines, has experience in this region, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't have picked a more perfect partner for us.
Right.
Full stop. Not to mention the fact that the project that they're contributing to the joint venture, the Jutel project, is a past producer at 6.5 grams. So it's a very much higher grade story that they're contributing into the joint venture. So let's go through some of the deal terms.
Okay. I would just like to mention, because you haven't said yet, the big company you're speaking about is Agnico Eagle, and they have a project right next to your big project up in Quebec. Isn't that right?
That's right. They operate the Canadian Malartic, largest open pit gold mine, I believe, in Canada.
Yes, it is.
And they are the number one gold producer in Quebec. I think Barrick is number one in Canada, but Agnico is the number one in Quebec. They know more about the geology in our region than anybody else. They've just been there forever. So what they're contributing and what we announced today was their strategic investment in us, which was at a 50% premium to our volume weighted trading average, 16 cents. 24 cents is where they're making their strategic investment. And that gets them up to 12.8%. In addition to that, we gave them warrants that allow them to buy up to 19.9%, but that's at another big step up to 34 cents, which is 100% premium to our 70%, 17 cent share price. That's the number, the share price that we use to come up with their premium on the share price today, and also the warrant price to get them to 19.9. So that happens, we close that on Tuesday, I think, next week. In addition, we signed a binding term sheet with them that creates a 50-50 joint venture partnership where they contribute their Jutel project, which is just to the south of us. We share similar geologic trends, and we contribute our Douay project. That Jutel project hosted their namesake past producing mine that produced 1.2 million ounces at 6.5 grams. And 3 deposit areas, we think they left considerable ounces behind. And I don't know which one I'm more excited about, Jutel or Douay. In fact, they're both, I think, going to be incredible projects. On top of that, on top of this strategic investment, they're committing to spend $18 million over 4 years in exploration. So we're carried on exploration for 4 years. Yesterday, we had $6.5 million or so in the treasury. Today, we have around $30 million in actual capital and committed capital in the ground. So it's transformational for us. It's a massive endorsement of our company, our people, and of course our project from the most important partner in the region. In addition to those terms, we have an NSR, net smelter royalty, that both companies get for their contribution of their projects, 2%. There's a buyback option for $40 million that gives credit for some of the ounces that we have already in the project. So that's important. In addition to that, down the road when we get to the development phase, they've agreed to stand shoulder to shoulder with us and help us when we go seek project financing. Another key important point that I don't know how you describe an actual dollar value to that. Through the joint venture that we're operating with them, they're contributing technical skills, their people, their personnel, and our VP Exploration, Friedrich Speidel, is the general manager of the joint venture. So those are the main points. There's some other ones around the edges, but those are the main high points. We go from being a company that was continuing to have to raise money to do exploration, trying to hit bigger and bigger holes all the time, hoping for the knock it out of the park, home run, having to go back to the market, having to go back to the market. Now we don't ever have to raise money again. Mm-hmm. Full stop.
Okay.
So that's important.
I have a few questions. So obviously the hope here is that those two projects can actually join up, right? They can join up the Jutel and your project in like one big pit kind of thing, right?
Well, they may, but the pit may be too large. I mean, Jutel has underground workings and former open pit working. Mm-hmm. It may be something we start there, may continue on to Douai, but Douai is a few kilometers away. So it could end up being that way, for sure. Some of the trends, the geologic trends, go from Jutel onto our ground. So the synergies are obvious. So yes, it could be that is the case. I mean, my vision is to create a bigger project than the Canadian Malartic, a larger open gold project. I want to be the biggest one in Canada, bigger than their version 1.0. I want to be Canadian Malartic 2.0. And who better to build that with than the current operator of Canadian Malartic?
Yeah, exactly. So it's great that if they want a larger share of your company, they've already agreed to like pay you more money at a higher price further down the road. Is there anything in the agreement about them picking up the whole project, or is that yet to be seen?
Right now, they have a standstill where they can't buy more shares of ours in the open market. They're limited up to 19.9, which is very important. So we get a couple of years to increase our market cap and our valuation of our company, which is very important. There's no ability for them to buy the other 50% of the joint venture. So no, they're limited in that. I mean, the trick here was to put together the strongest possible joint venture agreement with them for ourselves, of course, but also just imagining if I'm another big gold producing company that needs access to a number of ounces, and we expect we're going to have many multiples of the ounces that we've already discovered. But the trick is, if you are a Barrick, a Yamana, et cetera, and they're looking at our joint venture agreement with Agnico, they could say, well, if I buy Maple, I could step into the shoes of the joint venture operator with Agnico. That's so you have to create something that's very, very powerful at the joint venture agreement level. It has to be so strong, going both ways. This is not a big brother, little brother scenario in the joint venture. Of course, we are very, relatively speaking, we're much smaller than Agnico.
Yes.
The trick was, and what I've said before is, I've always thought about our company as a big company, because I come from big companies. I'm not going to be satisfied until we're many multiple dollar stock. But the key was here to come up with a joint venture agreement that is so powerful for us that any of the major companies would say, yeah, that's a very well negotiated joint venture agreement. I'm happy to step into that, operate with Agnico, and get access to all these multiple millions of ounces at these two projects. That was the trick. Mm-hmm. That was the trick. And we accomplished that in spades.
Excellent. So what my viewers should take away from this is you guys just made a great deal, but it might not be the last deal. I mean, there could be another deal out there as these other big companies watch what goes on with this project, watch the results, might say, you know what, we'd be a much better partner for Agnico Eagle because we want that gold too. So it might do that.
Absolutely. We had to set it up that way. And going back to our last conversation, Sean, some of the things we did along the way were not understood well by the market because they thought, why are you going a more conservative route? And we've talked about this on the resource estimate, for example. Mm-hmm. We chose RPA, which is more conservative. People said, well, you don't get to arm wave as much because you don't have as many ounces because you've been more conservative with a more conservative group. And I said, well, the idea is to get somebody interested in us who actually knows what they're doing and knows what they're looking at. For the day trader, blah, blah, blah. Like, they'll look at the big ounces and get excited on a day trade, but I don't care about that stuff. I care about building true value for the company over time. And the only way you do that is you're serious about what you're doing and you put together a package that includes conservative estimates on your ounces. So when Agnico Eagle looked at it, they said, these are real ounces.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say, oh, there's a lot of crazy assumptions and numbers thrown in there. They're using 2,500 gold to get there. Oh, he's 1,500 gold. And we're very conservative with how many ounces they were allowed to give us, given the spacing of the drill holes, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things we were doing in the background for the last 3.5 years to set up for this moment, this day, this moment. This is what we did all that for. It was with that planning in mind that we were able to accomplish this. If we hadn't done that, it would have been a different deal with a different party and on different terms. This is how we were able to get great terms on the JV agreement because we've done all the hard work. Fred Speidel has done all the work. He is amazing. I cannot say great things about Fred. He runs this project like a Swiss watch, as I've said. David Broughton, who's an award-winning geologist who's part of the technical team, he's amazing. Maurice Tagami. The entire crew is really exceptional. And we've tried to bring together an awesome crew. I mean, Shirley's come on recently, and she's one of our good luck charms. She came on just at the right time. But there are others in the company, and we're trying to create a DNA here that has quality people that love the asset, like to get after it, and add more to that kind of DNA of what we're trying to build, our own company. And you mentioned, this may not be the last deal. Well, we have our work cut out for us here, operating these projects. But with a expanding gold platform that we're creating, Maple Gold, we expect to be a relevant, large gold company of Canada in its own right. This is not the end of the story. I mean, we have our eye on a couple of very, very juicy additional targets to go after that we would acquire outside of this potentially.
So you're looking at other targets not on the property you have now. These are okay.
Absolutely. We're always on the hunt for accretive transactions. My DNA is M&A. Mm-hmm. That's how I was raised. That's my training as a transactional lawyer, originally and banker. This is what I did from Robert Friedland at Ivanhoe Mines. My mandate at Ivanhoe was to bring in strategic partners. Took a little longer here, but we did it. So this is the fun part. This is where I have a lot of fun. But the things that I can do to add value are this: negotiating strong agreements with real partners, and then going on the hunt for better deals and putting together accretive transactions for our shareholders and driving real value for our shareholders. Those are things I can do. So we've always said that we'll control the things in the ground that we can control, which is driving the asset and the project forward. And we didn't know what the timing was going to be for other things to happen. This has finally come together. We can't say enough about Agnico Eagle as a partner. They're fantastic, down to every last person. They're really, really wonderful people to work with. And it's the transformational deal. With their endorsement, we now have arrived as the next company to watch in the gold space.
Excellent. So they have committed to spending $18 million over the next 4 years. How will that actual money be spent, and how much will be spent, say, in the next year?
I believe it's split up loosely 4-4-5-5 or 4-4-5-6-5-6-5, something like that.
Okay.
But one thing that bears mentioning is that's the minimum spend. Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll spend no less than that. There's nothing to stop us. In fact, we are both in agreement, we and Agnico, that if we need to get after it and speed up the timeline, we will. And spend double or triple that. And in that case, we'd have to fund 50-50.
Right, because that actually was my next question. If they increase the spending, you have to match them, right?
Yeah, we don't have to. We have to agree to it with them collectively. They can't force us beyond those numbers to do anything for 4 years. But if we both say there's a target and we have a large enough treasury, we say, yeah, it makes sense. Or we just allow them to speed up the time frame of that $18 million to spend it over 2 years, say, if the project warrants it. What this establishes the benchmark. This is the absolute money that's going to go into the ground by them. So we're carried on the expiration. And again, if, for example, the targets that we're going after in a few weeks that hasn't changed. The Northeast IP target, which we talked about last time, we don't need to go over it again, unless you'd like to. If we come up with something nice there, which I think we will, a VESA lookalike, there's nothing, I mean, and I call up Agnico and say, hey, this is what we just found. I think we should go after this one first and spend some more money there. They'll say, yeah, by all means, let's get after it. It's a very collaborative relationship. It's not a sticky, prickly situation. It's very kind of a real partnership. This isn't, I don't know if I should call them and tell them. It's very open, very transparent.
Well, no, they sound like a very good group to be in partnership with. And so besides the fact that you're right next door, what else about that your project attracted them to you? Well,
the existing infrastructure we have is important.
Yes.
It's not a big deal, but it's there. There's a camp built, people there. Our project has, I'm going to put a few words in their mouth, but we're, as I said before, last week or 2 weeks ago, an exact look-alike analog to Canadian Malartic. I mean, I wasn't just saying that. I think Fred shared with you some of the reasons for that, or if he hasn't, he can share with you some of the slides. The age of the rock is almost the same. The footprint, almost the same. The depth, about the same of the resource, average depth. In fact, they've actually gone deeper than we are. Their cutoff grade, though, is lower than ours. We have a higher cutoff, 0.45. They're actually lower than they are. So our grade is actually a little bit higher than Malartic. We have the benefit of not having to move an entire city, which they had to do, $1 billion+. So we're in a better kind of from a dead start. We're in a better situation from that perspective. There's nobody around us. So what attracted us to them? Well, we have multiple millions of ounces that will feed their demand as they continue to need more ounces in their pipeline. I mean, if they go offline or if they run out of ounces, say in 2026, 2027, they can point to us as the next number of ounces that they're going to put into production. So they need projects like us, and this looks a lot like what they're already operating 150 clicks away. They're very used to this type of geology and this type of mining, high tonnage, relatively a little bit lower grade, but they like this. This is what they do very, very well. They're wildly profitable with Canadian Malartic, as I'm sure you know.
Yes. It's an excellent mine. One last question is that you have a net smelter royalty of like 2%, but what if they buy more of the company? What happens then? Do you keep that same percentage, or else will that change?
It actually goes up. If for some reason down the road in many, many years, something happens to the partnership interest and it goes below 10%, then we actually get another percent on that NSR. So it goes up another percent. So
okay.
That's the only thing that changes. But yeah, the idea of that happening, it's really hard to imagine a scenario when that will actually come to pass. We're planning and expect there to be success. And at some point, you can kind of predict what would happen. So we'll be cheap at a $600 million market cap price tag for them if we represent the other half of a $9 billion asset.
Right.
For example. So they know the asset better than anybody else. They just come in and say, okay, here's X number of dollars per share, Matthew. Thank you very much. We'll move on. And we'll be happily, go along with that and make our shareholders a lot of money. So that's no problem. But that is also, as I said earlier, doesn't stop somebody else from saying, at any time, I don't know when, could we just take you out today for a nice deal?
Right. And
stepping into our shoes. I would put up a fight and make sure that we got the highest share price possible, of course, because it's too early. I don't want to go anywhere right now. Now it's getting fun. But I don't know. That could happen now. Could happen when we're $5 stock or $10 stock. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, actually, one thing that I have been explaining to my subscribers is that the reserve life on average for mines around the world has been going down and down and down. Now it's just like maybe 10 years. So there must be plenty of big miners that are looking at this, thinking about what Agnico Eagle sees there and says, you know what, maybe we should be the partner in that. So I think that opens up some very interesting potential there.
I'm just gonna have to put up a fight. Now I now have to go on the defensive. I was on the offensive before, now I've done the defense, and potentially, because I've seen this happen before. I mean, you know, there are other situations where after drilling 9 holes, the partner says, okay, let's just do this now. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I think that, to your point exactly, Sean, other partners who we've been in conversations with, and we've talked to most of them, all the big guys, they may say, oh, Agnico knows the space better than anybody. Everyone acknowledges that. There's no debate over who knows Quebec geology best among the big major mining companies. No debate. It's not Barrick. It's not Gold. I mean, former Goldport, new one. It's Agnico Eagle. Full stop. Everybody on the planet would agree. So if they give us this endorsement, all the other guys say, oh crap, we missed that one. But we still have a way in through owning Maple or buying Maple. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not suggesting those conversations are underway. I don't want to give anyone false impressions. Now I'm enjoying today. We've brought forward a deal, a transaction that's transformational for us with their endorsement and with these wonderful people at Agnico Eagle. And what happens next, I don't know. All I know is we have funding, all the funding we need for 4 years at the project and at many more years at the corporate level to drive those projects forward. And then if something else interesting comes along, we'll take a look at it.
Okay. That about wraps up my questions. Congratulations, though. I'm not
Thank
sure
you.
I actually said that, so congratulations.
Thank you, Sean.
Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap this up?
No, have a great weekend. It's nice seeing you. I don't know what I'm going to come up with next, though. Is the only problem. The only challenge I have is the next time we talk, I hope to have something even better to tell you. And I don't think I can deliver on that. So
I look forward to that conversation, though. That'll be great.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to talk to you anytime, Sean.
All right, folks. You just heard it from the horse's mouth. This is a great deal for Maple Gold, and we'll have to watch this closely. It's in your portfolio already. I can't wait to see what happens next. Stay tuned. I'll have more for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
And